The counterfeit medications industry generates $35 to $44 billion annually, and the World Health Organization estimates that counterfeit medications may account for as much as 10% of medications in circulation. Please take a moment to realize that 10% of the drugs in circulation are made without regard to regulation, and often as cheaply as possible. Commonly, counterfeit medications have little to none of the active ingredients that patients depend on. Other times, they are made with hazardous chemicals that can cause the patient to become ill, or even kill the patient. In this video, we'll delve into the very real global threat of counterfeit drugs, the reaction that we've seen from the global community, the reasons that it's become such a prevalent issue, and some of the technology and techniques used to prevent and combat it throughout the supply chain by regulatees and regulators. This is all about counterfeit medication. My name is Tom Flack, recording this podcast from my house in Royal Oak, Michigan. Today is November 23rd, 2011. Order, order! It's early April in Geneva. The year is 1992, and the World Health Organization, or WHO, is convening. This is the first international meeting addressing the global epidemic of counterfeit medications. The objective? To define what is a counterfeit medicine. A counterfeit medicine is one in which is supposedly and falsely mislabeled in accordance to identity and or source. Counterfeiting can pertain mutually to both branded as well as generic products comprising of either correct or incorrect ingredients, lacking active ingredients, or forged packaging. The Nigerian National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, or NAFDAC, soon modified the World Health Organization's definition of what it means to be a counterfeit medicine to those medicines with the same quantity of active ingredients as that of the genuine brand, insufficient or no active ingredients, medicines which are post-expiry date, herbal preparations that are toxic or ineffective, and medicines which do not bear the name and address of the manufacturer or counterfeit. Nigeria is an African country all too familiar with counterfeit medicine. Maximum counterfeit reports around the world are related to antibiotics, antiprotozoals, hormones, and steroids. At this point, you may ask yourself, why is counterfeiting drugs so popular? There are a number of factors that enable this illegal mega-industry. It's not uncommon for criminals to purchase medications from ailing people if they have fallen on hard times. Or medication can just be straight up stolen, just like anything else. This can happen at hospitals, people's homes, ambulatory daycare centers, or doctor's offices, among other places. Also, legitimate medications can be obtained legally or illegally through diversion. This is the act of buying medication for a low price, usually in a less developed country, and then reselling it for a much higher price in a developed country. These are a couple ways that legitimate medications can find their ways back into the supply chain illegally. However, there are many advantages to counterfeiting medications rather than illegally obtaining legitimate products, such as it's cheap. Counterfeiters have the economic advantage of not having to spend money on meeting regulated standards. A legitimate drug producer would never dare of selling one of their patients crushed up and reshaped Tic Tacs in place of an approved drug. Apart from that being immoral, the reckless behavior of that firm would also cause them to be very liable. Counterfeit medication producers don't have to deal with these pesky problems. Legitimate drug producers also spend millions of dollars to meet stringent standards imposed on them by national and or international regulatory committees. Counterfeit medication can be much less risky to obtain than legitimate medication. Criminals don't have to steal from sick people, which I feel makes them a bit less likely to be caught. Other perks include they don't have to see the person they're hurting, and they don't have to commit an illegal activity with a third party who's on a legitimate record, whether it's via their employment or a document recipient of the drug. Now I'd like to take some time to discuss some of the main factors that contribute to the growth of counterfeit medication. The high and inelastic price, accompanied by the relatively low manufacturing costs of counterfeit medicines discussed previously, makes them an attractive target for criminal activity. Also, since the repercussions for illegally diverting or manufacturing counterfeit medications are much less severe than those of selling illegal drugs such as cocaine or heroin, the counterfeit medication industry has become a haven for organized crime. The supply chain for prescription medication can easily be called hectic. It's estimated that a prescription medication will switch hands anywhere between 17 to 30 times throughout the course of its supply chain before it finally reaches the end consumer. The complexity of the supply chain provides ample opportunity for criminal activity. This problem is exacerbated by the lack of aid to identify and eliminate counterfeit medications between the different players in the supply chain. A main reason that good counterfeit medications are able to often pass through the supply chain undetected is that they bear all or many of the same immediate sensory sensations and graphic details as a legitimate product. By using a trusted brand name and accurate packaging, counterfeiters are often able to dupe humans and machines throughout the many levels of the supply chain to the end user. A lack of consumer awareness also contributes to this epidemic. Often consumers are duped by online pharmacies. Not all of these online pharmacies are illegitimate. However, enough of them are that it's probably best to try and avoid them. Also, since a good counterfeit medication will very closely imitate the same immediate sensory sensations and graphic details of their legitimate counterpart, it can be very difficult for even an end user to differentiate between the two until it is too late. To combat counterfeiting, both regulators and regulatees have and are still devising techniques to identify counterfeit medication. Overt anti-counterfeiting components are clearly visible security components placed on a package or product. The two most popular overt anti-counterfeiting components are 2D barcodes and holograms. 2D barcodes can successfully link a product back to a database to be verified, while a hologram functions as an identifying mark that can be hard for counterfeiters to replicate. Other common overt anti-counterfeiting technologies include optical variable coatings with changing color, thermochromatic inks, and watermarks. Covert anti-counterfeiting components are difficult to sense or copy by a non-specialist, i.e., an everyday person. Some covert features include microscopic particles of specific colors, labels printed with color combinations, and perhaps the most successful, radio frequency identification, or RFID. These features are not intended to raise awareness within the general public, but rather to serve as a product legitimacy identifier to the manufacturer of that product. I'd also like to take a moment to provide an example of covert packaging. The following link is to a video that depicts a protective film that can also be applied to labels. This film doubles as a covert security feature. Moments after the film is submerged, observe how the chemical reaction between the heat provided by the hot water and the shape-shifting polymers in the label cause a predetermined pattern in the label to appear. Now please take another moment and consider the characteristics that can be qualified and quantified in this label. The time that it takes the polymer to shapeshift once the heat is applied, the range of temperatures where the chemical reaction is possible, the pattern used, and the orientation and spacing between the patterns. In this video, that pattern was the word true. This video was made by Manbury, the manufacturer of the film. The covert security pattern of the film becomes visible at 65 degrees Celsius. A cigarette lighter can also be used to stimulate this chemical reaction in case there's not a bowl of hot water around. Tamper-evident features, also known as security-enforcing packaging components, help to maintain the integrity of the medication by preventing counterfeiters from either repacking or reselling pharmaceutical products. Often, these features are combined with overt security components to further combat illegal activity. HoloSeal serves as an example of this sort of integrated technology. HoloSeal is a patent pressure-sensitive, tamper-apparent holographic security label. HoloSeal features a customized tamper-evident fracture pattern, machine-readable entrenched code, and black light verification system. To help combat counterfeit medication, the FDA has developed the CD3 handheld unit. The CD3 is a low-cost, portable, and battery-operated device that is capable of identifying counterfeit medications in the field by using light to identify and verify legitimate versus illegitimate medications. The CD3 works on a basis of assuming that particular medications reflect light in a particular way. If the illuminated product does not reflect light back to the CD3 as it should, then it's fake. To illustrate just how similar counterfeit products can look to legitimate products, I thought it would be appropriate to show a few examples. Please take a few moments to try and figure out which of these two products is a counterfeit. If you answered the product on the right, then you were correct. Notice the brand names. It's written in 4 languages. The logo is oversized, and the typeface is incorrect, among many other things. These counterfeits were seized back in 2011 in Canada. In fact, the fake Cialis was tainted with sildenafil, which is a prescription medication that requires careful oversight by a medical professional. Some victims died from heart attacks and strokes, while others reported injury. This image surfaced on the web from Uganda in 2012. It features metacalfin, a drug used to treat malaria. Please take a moment and guess which one is a counterfeit. If you guessed the product on the left, then you were correct. The drugs Pills in this case, contained in that package on the right, contain little to no active ingredients. As of 2012, it was estimated that 1/3 of all malaria drugs in Uganda and Tanzania are fake and/or substandard. The exact origin of the pills remains unknown, but they are suspected to have been manufactured in India or China. Another very pressing concern about counterfeit medications is the immunity to treatment that they cause within a patient, possibly resulting in an epidemic if other people get sick. A sick person taking counterfeit antibiotics may be getting or may have been exposed to the active ingredient or ingredients inside of a legitimate medication, but not enough to kill the disease. As a result, the disease builds up an immunity to that antibiotic inside of that sick person, and they can no longer be treated with that drug. In conclusion, counterfeit medication is an epidemic that plagues the global community. There is technology integrated into medical products to combat this illegal activity, but all regulators and regulatees use this technology for is to police the industry and react to reported incidents. The key to fighting counterfeit medication is to take a more proactive approach. If the pharmaceutical supply chain were more secure and less hectic, then monitoring the legitimacy of the products within it would be significantly more manageable. I'd like to thank you for listening. This is the end of my documentary on counterfeit medicine. I hope that you were able to find some value in it.